Good morning. It is Monday, December 11th, 2023, and this is the Monday Morning Report. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and here is the news. First off, some very good news for a change. Gonzalo Lira is getting the attention his case has deserved for some time now. Tucker Carlson did a wonderful interview with his father, which was heartbreaking. If you've ever had a situation where you've had a son you weren't really sure of his fate, I can assure you from personal experience that's a very hard place to be. But Tucker has drawn attention to this, and as a result, so Elon Musk has found out about it as well. At this point, it's now going to become a major story and a major embarrassment to the Ukrainian government, if you can call it a government, and if you can even call it embarrassing given what's going on there. One of the dangers, though, is Mr. Lira is extremely articulate. He is a very well-versed political analyst. I know that he's being trashed in the mainstream media because they're scared of him. Because if he gets out of prison alive, he is going to have an awful lot to talk about. And the United States government, especially the State Department and the executive branch of the government, is going to have a lot of explaining to do as to why they allowed such a travesty of justice to occur with one of its citizens. So even though this has caused a great deal of ruckus and is continuing to do so, it does put Mr. Lira in some danger. Don't be surprised if you hear that he's been, shall we say, silenced forever. That might happen. I hope it doesn't. I hope he gets out, and it will make it a much more interesting election year as the American people are beginning to see exactly what evil is at the head of their affairs. Now, another story more close to home, and this is one that I wasn't really going to bother with, but because some people have contacted me about it, I thought I would address it. Many of you have heard about a bombing that went off, a house that exploded in Arlington, Virginia, and I'm in this area. I don't live in Arlington, but I'm in Northern Virginia. And this was a guy who was pretty much a nutcase, by all accounts. Tin foil over the windows, or aluminum foil over the windows. That dates me, doesn't it? And neighbors that have been complaining about him for some time. He was shooting off a flare gun. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't believe people like that deserve any publicity, even in death. He was shooting a flare gun. The cops show up, try to talk him out of things, and then after some shots were exchanged, we're not really sure all the details yet, the house went kaboom, and it made for a great internet video. It seems that the guy had a father with all sorts of connections to the intelligence world and all this other stuff. Now, let me explain something if it's not obvious. Arlington, Virginia is a company town, and the biggest employer is the United States government. If you throw a rock on the street, you're probably going to hit somebody with a security clearance. There's two types of people in Arlington. Those are working for the government or government-like organizations, and a whole bunch of illegal Hispanics that I see on the corners looking for work, usually in the homes of the former. I don't believe this is anything except another nutcase, and the rich and powerful are just as subject to having crazy relatives as anyone else. It's just that if this had happened maybe in Texas or in Iowa or something, and somebody was accused of being part of some government MK Ultra-like project, maybe there might be something to it, but no. I don't buy it for a second. I know of many people in that immediate area, and I do have reason to visit that area on occasion, who are rather famous. You have members of Congress, you have members of the Senate, you have law enforcement officials, you have spooks, you have retired spooks. A lot of retired intelligence people live in Arlington. I know that as a first-hand fact. I won't mention any of them or what they did, but I had reason to bump into them on occasion. I mean, you'll see members of Congress at a local coffee shop in that part of town. So I don't think there's anything more to this. I'm open to being wrong. Every good journalist is open to being wrong, but I wouldn't put any credence in any of these I don't want to use the word conspiracy theory, but that's what they are. I have some news for most of you. Not all cockroaches march under orders, although some do, and they usually work for the federal government. But we'll go into something else. Now, here, related to that is Hunter Biden being indicted. Yeah, well, they're going to have to make a compromise with someone like him. They're going to go after him for taxes. Okay, yeah, not corruption, not all the other nasty stuff he's been into, not the fact that he disposed of a gun in a dumpster near a school, not because of cocaine possession and obvious videos of him using drugs and all these other things that the Biden crime family have been involved with. But, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. I'm sorry that the people who are at the head of our affairs are both corrupt and evil, and quite stupid at that. So, you think that Richard Nixon was driven out of office because of he just thought it would be a good idea to cover up something that he had nothing to do with. How times have changed. Now, speaking of corruption, it was reported first on the YouTube channel Redacted, which I do recommend is a pretty good source of news. It's called Redacted. It's up on YouTube and a few other places. It hasn't been banned from YouTube. I think it's been demonetized, though. They were the first I saw to report that Mr. Zelensky may be immigrating to Florida and given citizenship in the United States, at least a green card. And that was supposedly leaked by a Secret Service agent in the Executive Protection Detail. It seems to be legit. It's not necessarily a done deal, but it's probably a backup plan because the Ukrainians have pretty much lost the war. The Ukrainian government, if you can call it that, has lost a lot of legitimacy. It's never really had any for a very long period of time. You can ask Mr. Lira of that if he ever gets out of one of their gulags. But it's interesting that that's come out. Now, Mr. Zelensky is supposed to be visiting Washington, D.C. to meet with Biden tomorrow. That's Tuesday. That's the report I saw this morning. It'll be interesting to see if he goes home. It will be interesting to see if that happens. No predictions here, but this is a guy who has taken a lot of your money, folks. It's not gone to the Ukrainian people. It's gone to defense contractors. It's gone to munitions makers. It's gone to probably digging graves, paying the wages of the Ukrainian government. All of the money that is money you're paying or are in for because it's going to be borrowed from other places like China. So I would watch the Zelensky saga unfold. If the story that was on Redacted is true, this guy will be settling in Florida and will have Secret Service protection for the rest of his life, courtesy of the American taxpayer. And in terms of war, the Gaza War is still going on. Now, even though I don't think, and I still don't think, that anybody in that neighborhood is interested in getting in on it, the problem is the U.S. and Israelis seem to be interested in expanding it, which is not a cool thing either. The problem with wars are that one wrong thing at one wrong time could result in a catastrophe. The 20th century became a bloodbath because of one fanatic who shot Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo. And that resulted in World War I, which resulted in World War II, which resulted in the Cold War, which resulted in the world we are today. One crazed man with a gun, or it depends on if you agreed with his politics at the time, but now it kind of doesn't matter. But one man with a gun shot one member of a royal family, and who knows how many tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions of people died as a result of that. So you never know how things are going to go. Beware of random events being the old joke. But the U.S. does not seem to be interested in toning this thing down like they have in the past. They vetoed a call for a ceasefire, which is quite nuts. And, we'll see how things are going to go. They're talking about flooding the whole Gaza Strip and all those tunnels and basically turning the place into one big swamp. So who knows what's going to happen to the 2.3 or however million people are there now. It pays to watch that carefully. Again, we're picking up the tab for this. Congress is, I believe the Biden administration has asked Congress for a great deal more money to be given to Israel to pay for more ammunition. And one little bit of interesting news, Alex Jones is back on X, or on X, because he was banned from Twitter when before X was Twitter, Twitter was X, whatever. I'm not a big fan of Mr. Jones, but I am a big fan of free speech. It is an interesting development. And I wonder who else is going to be allowed back on that platform, which seems to be getting much more active. And Mr. Musk has done a great service. Again, even though you may not agree with what someone says, you should be willing to defend to the death their right to say it. That's such a cornerstone of American civilization. I can't see how anyone would disagree with it. The only thing that I could see is how that's going to play in with the election next year. He's going to have a say in it. He had a big part to play in Trump being elected to the first term, and that could happen again. I don't know if Mr. Trump is going to get elected again. I think that the powers that be are going to do everything they can, up to and including things that are illegal, to prevent him from ever entering office, but you never know. 2024 is around the corner, and it is going to be interesting. And not necessarily intellectually interesting, Chinese interesting, as in, may you live in interesting times. That's it for today. If you like what you hear, you like what you read, you like what you see on my Substack channel, please consider subscribing. Please consider a paid subscription, as that would free up my time to spend more on doing photography, of course. Some people like what I do there, doing writing of written stories and doing more audio stories. And always willing to take any feedback, and you know where to get me. Anyways, please be good, be safe, be vigilant, be smart, and good day.